Hey guys, it's John. I want to put this video out there for anyone who might be struggling right now growing their coaching business. You might be struggling to attract clients into their business, or you might not know what to focus on or what it actually takes to make your income and your client base grow month to month. And this is a strategy that I used or I developed with one of my clients, and it took them from naught to $20,000 per month. And there's 5 basic steps, and I've condensed them down to what I think the biggest levers were in that transformational journey. So if you're a PT or a coach, if you're just starting off, this will provide you a bit of structure. Or if you're an established coach and you're looking at other people growing, yet they seem to have terrible results and you wonder, why are they growing? They're probably following a structure or strategy like this. So let's get straight into it. Now, the first thing you need to focus on is who are you marketing towards? Understanding the target market is critical, because in order to stand out and become a market of one, or in order to get clients and beat people who are way more established than you, influencers and huge coaches with huge audiences, how are you going to compete with them? How are you going to stand out? Well, it's due to the level of understanding you show, because trust is built by showing your understanding. Most people want to feel understood. It's not really all about giving them results. They want to resonate with people who understand them. And trust is formed when you repeat someone's reality back to them in their content. Because I guarantee you this, if you can describe the problems I have, or if you can make me more aware of the problems I have, and you can make that light bulb go off for me and explain it in such a way that's really easy for me to understand, I'm naturally going to warm to you. I'm going to feel like you understand me. And then when I look at your stories and you have similar interests, or you're sharing and you seem like a human being and you give me easy opportunity to connect with you, then I'm going to start to connect with you, and then so on and so forth. So this first stage really is understanding who you're targeting, who you're about, because this is going to be what makes people sign up with you versus the other coach in your area, the other coach with a bigger audience. This is going to point people in your direction. And most people, they start off with topics and they're probably thinking about, okay, I've got to talk about this topic, or that topic went viral, or that coach is talking about that, or that person's talking about that. And this is a really, really bad strategy to copy, because you just look like someone else and you don't have the opportunity and space to find your own voice and find your own place in the market. Plus, people notice that you look like everyone else. So what you need to think about is, okay, who are you serving, and what pain are you addressing in the market? And the best way to think about this is this analogy here. And basically, this thing here, this is the sun. This is a solar system. So this is basically the industry in terms of fitness. Now, if you look at the orbit ranges, on the outskirts, you've got people who think Ainsley Harriot's cookbook is going to make them lose weight. Ainsley Harriot, he's great, he's healthy, he's going to help. Bullshit. But people don't know much if they're at very early stages. That's the person, Ainsley. I'm not going to bother spelling his name. My handwriting's terrible, but there we go. There's a little scribble for you. But he's on the outskirts. So you people where Pluto is, people are uneducated, they're not invested. That's where they go first. The sun. These are the people who are writing cutting-edge PD protocols. And to be fair, actually, it's people who judge Olympia. Steve Weinberg, Bev Francis Jim, head judge of Olympia. He's probably at the core of the industry. He decides who has the best physique on the planet. So you have different orbit ranges. There's different investment levels. There's different education levels. Think about the industry like that, and which orbit range do you operate in? Because when you look at it like that, you can center in on, okay, where do you meet people and where do you take them to? We're going to go on to that in the next strategy, which is hugely influential, enticing people to actually inquire rather than you practically chase them. But once you understand, okay, it's not really about talking about topics anymore. It's centering in on, okay, what orbit range do you operate in? And what is the pain and what is the issue around that orbit range? And once you know that, you can find the list of problems associated with that pain. And I say pain on purpose, because if you're focusing and solving a problem no one gives a crap about, you're not going to get people inquiring. So you've got to think about, okay, when people enter that orbit range and they kind of take that next stage, for example, people probably, after the trying cookbooks, they might look at Joe Wicks, Lean 15. He's more fitness influency. Yeah, maybe he's the next guy. So that's the next person they're going to see. That's the person they're going to bump into when they go in towards the center of the solar system. So again, what sort of problems they have. And understand this is crucial, because one of my clients, Angus, he has nailed this. He specifically targets people who are entering the weight stream. They've never done it before, or he's trying to get them to enter the weight stream and quit running as an exercise for losing fat, because he understands the principle of, well, TDE essentially, and he explains that in layman's terms, and he attracts people who are just starting off their weight training, and he gets them off a curve of trading calories burnt as like an approach to weight loss into the compounding effects of increasing muscle mass over time, plus for long-term health as a kind of more sustainable approach. So that's his orbit range. So you've got a center on the pain and what are the problems, and then once you have those problems, that forms the basis of a content strategy. But then you can look at what's the situation. The person at that stage, walking into that orbit range, what does their life look like? And this is where the magic happens, because if you know the behaviors, well, actually, no, let's look at it like this. The best way to do this is if you know their thoughts, what they're thinking, that's really important because that determines the behaviors and decisions they make. And when they do those behaviors, they then feel something. And that's typically the cycle. Think, do, feel. So with that, it's just, okay, what are people thinking? What are the typical, when they experience the pain and they go through these problems that you should list out and the basis of your core content, these are ultimately the topics, by the way. That's what you're going to center in on your content. Once you have that, it's like, okay, cool. When they have those problems, what are they thinking? What are the thoughts that go through their head? When you know what their reality looks like, when you look at a client, okay, when they wake up in the morning, what do they do? What's their life? What's their routine? Where do they go? Do they go to work? Do they drive? Do they take the bus? What do they see? What signs do they see? What drive-throughs do they pass? Do they get a coffee? Do they not get a coffee? Do they look at McDonald's? How many different fast food outlets do they see? So on and so forth. When they go to lunch, what options are in front of them? Do they go to Greg's? Do they not go to Greg's? Do they get meal deals? Do they go to lunch? Is there social pressure to go out for lunch? Is someone bringing a cake in? Is Janice always having a fucking birthday with a cake in front of them? They have biscuits. What's in the biscuit tray? Knowing it to that precision, and the best way to do this is don't imagine it, just talk to clients. Talk to your clients and just go through it. And if you've already lived it, you know it. So that's the level of detail you need, and that's speaking someone's reality back to them. So once you know that, you know what they're thinking, you can label the behaviors they do and the decisions they make off those thoughts, and then you can reference how they feel. So this is the core tenet to get off the ground. This is how you're going to stand out. This is what's going to basically be the core essence of your content strategy, and it's going to form the messaging of what you're going to say. And this is how people are going to be drawn to you and pick you. It's the precision and level and the depth of how you know someone's reality. And this is going to ultimately speed up the process of people coming to you because it's the trust building. It's standing out. And then obviously the more precise you are, the more consistent you are. It's not just people, the algorithm will learn this. The algorithm are going to learn who you're trying to target. And if you be consistent enough in the messaging and patient enough, then that's what's going to push you to more and more of the right people. And you don't need to get loads of people in this business. You just need to be a market of one for like a really tight-knit audience. And you have the freedom and tools to do that, which is fantastic. And ultimately, we're going to go on to this, but you know, if you can attract and keep people for long enough, to earn 10K per month, charging the base level of £150 per month or $150 if you're in America, to earn 10,000 a month, you need to work with 87 people a year. Because if you can work with 87 people a year and average a good sort of 8-month retention with people, that's what you need to grow and cap at that figure of 10,000. It's a lot less than you think. And it comes down to how you communicate or how you kind of attract them off the content and then how you keep them, which we're going to go on to. So understand your avatar. Then you've got to look at frameworks. And so many coaches don't do this. So many coaches have zero idea of what the actual point of their service is. They're thinking their service is check-ins. They think it's like the app they do, and they're operating on a week-by-week check-in basis, which is a terrible idea because if you leave it up to the clients to look at the horizon, they're going to drop off and you're going to shoot yourself in the foot in terms of how long you can actually serve that person. And this is hugely instrumental when it comes to increasing the retention. Like the figures here, one of the best cases I have is I had a client that had around 2.8 months as their average retention. Why? Well, we did 12-week packages, and when you do 12-week packages, you create such an exit door for people to leave. I hate them, by the way. So he did 12-week packages, 90-day periods, and guess what? When you work with people, sometimes people just don't resonate, and you're always going to get that percentage of the market. Anything under 10% chance, fine from my perspective, but you're going to get people who don't match up. Out of the people who join, some are going to drop off within that time period. So 2.8 months was his average retention. Guess what? We want to change that. I want to change that. I encourage him to change that. So obviously we worked at the framework. We built something like this into his plan where we showed different phases of the plan and we showed horizons. And from this, he started to get people looking up. We obviously presented not just a 6-month goal, but we also envisioned a 2-year goal in mind for them. And we reflected this to content. His average retention went from 2.8 months to 10 months. Miraculously, he earned over $100,000 in his business without attracting a single client. He earned $100,000 just in added lifetime. Just in added lifetime. And the other benefits of that process is the more people stay with you, the better results you're going to get. So that attracts more indirect inquiries. The more people stay with you, the better relationships you're going to foster, which guess what? Leads to better referrals. Word of mouth is awesome because someone else can sell your service way more than you can sell it yourself. So when you optimize things like this, it really helps. But when we look at frameworks, again, what you got to think about is, okay, what does a 6-month process look like? Instead of 90 days, think in 6 months and then think in 2 years. And ultimately, the framework should be, where do you take someone in 2 years? When you look at the orbit range, you've got to think about, okay, this orbit range and 2 years later, where do they end up? That's your remit. That's what you excel at. That's niching. That's how you drill down and attract people and become that market of one. So what does it look like? Start to build the phases in your service. Start to map it out. And when you sign people up, do projections like this. You know, this, if you can show them where they're going to be in 6 months, and then if you can dangle the carrot for like the bigger goal, where they're going to look like further down the line, because ultimately this is, you know, this was like a 2-year outcome. It's actually 18 months between this point and this point. It's about 18 months. The initial 6 months, I think it was somewhere like here. I don't know exactly when, but it's 6 months initially. That's what they're focused on. Lay that horizon. And then you want to go through, obviously we've got different phases here as well. When you go through the framework, it makes you look like a process. And when you look like a process, it looks different. And when it looks different, that actually says to people, well, that looks new, that looks different. I can't disqualify it, so maybe I'll give it a go. It looks unique in its way. So it looks good on the front end, but on the back end, it lays the expectation and it gives people a bigger vision because your vision for them is way bigger than they will think of it themselves. So you can excite them and give them a bigger thing to aim towards, which again is going to do all in your power to make them looking ahead. So you can do phrases, you can do projections. You can also build commit and save offers where you can provide a little bit more payment structure where you offer incentives for people to sign up for a longer period of time. And you can use payment splitters to make that more convenient for people. There's loads of things you can do to optimize for that framework and get people envisioning the longer term. But another big thing with the phases is if people think things are going to come up and they're going to be different, you really get over that hurdle of it feeling like a continuous process. Because if the check-ins feel mundane and it's more of the same, and you get some people where it doesn't look like anything's going to change and they're not looking on the horizon. And those sorts of people are very vulnerable to life hits them in the arse. My car has got a bill. I've got to move house, or my partner's just stopped work. I can't afford it. That happens when they don't have a vision, they don't think anything's changing, and they don't see the value of what's coming up, and there's no reason. I might as well just continue on my own. If it's more of the same, my plan hasn't changed, the check-ins like this, whatever, I'll just keep doing it on my own, thanks mate. So you can directly influence and change that by having a decent framework in mind, and it's up to you to do so. Plus, it helps with the marketing on the front end, because again, this is going to form part of the content strategy, which we're going to go on to right now, because obviously content, because a lot of coaches get stuck in the idea of just trying to grow a following. Growing your Instagram account and getting people to inquire are two very different things. And typically the content which has the worst engagement and the worst views, that's what keeps people over the edge to inquire and enter your business. A specific message delivered to the right person speaking their reality back to them, that's niche and it's specific. So it's probably going to get low engagement because it only applies to a few people. So the signals you'll look at is like, well, it's got low views, it's got low engagement, that performed terribly. Not true. The basic example I got of this is used to work alongside Andy in my old mentoring company. Average 6,000 views per reel, put one out, 300 views. On paper, awful. That reel earned him 9 grand. 3 clients signed up off that reel because he nailed the messaging, nailed the point, and they paid up front with some 3-month packages. So it's just like, you've got to understand what is the objective. You've got to focus on the fact of it's all about getting people to inquire. With the content you're going to produce, you will get a following as well, but try not to optimize just for views because it's worthless if you're not going to get people to kind of message and come through off the back end of it. They're very different things, so just be very careful. And in this, a big part of the strategy, again, with Shane and with Lloyd, to drive them up for sort of 6x in their business and 9x in their business, was rotating between problems, framework, and results. Because the way this works is, again, these problems are specific to the orbit range. You can like reference the pain, you can reference the situation they're going through, and then you can just provide help around those issues. But this is where you can reference those, and it's all about speaking their reality. You don't actually want to give away too much of the solution here, because again, what you want to do is you want to provide tension in the content strategy, because if you reference their reality, but don't give an answer or specific solution to it, that will make them look for an answer, and it starts to create contrast. And then when you go contrast that against the reality of people achieving what they want at the end of the orbit range, at the end of the 2-year process, and you show the proof of that, it's that resonating with where they are, resonating with where they want to be, and constantly going in between, showing those two poles, that will start to kind of drive that urgency to do something about it. And that's where the framework comes in. Because if you present your framework as the solution, as the option of what to do, and everyone who is getting this benefit and was in this situation, they've gone through this, that's the answer. They have to inquire, or they have to message, or they have to follow a bit of a call to action to find out more, find out the results they could expect. So, in the framework, typically good for like Monday's a really good day to kind of talk about your offer or talk about elements of your service. But there's 5 points you can cover with this. You can do call to actions, obviously, off the back of content. You can do snippets, you can do little bolt-ons, you can reference, not so much sign up. It's like you're trying to let people know what they can do or what would happen after they inquired. It's trying to shorten the action threshold. You're not trying to get them to proactively sign up. You're trying to make them find out more of the results they could expect and what's involved in that process. It's easier to get them to aim for that and get people to kind of inquire for that reason, rather than expecting them to kind of apply or sign up or form some sort of payment, which it can feel like that. But when you look at your framework, there's 5 main points you can cover. It's ultimately, what is it? What is your coaching? And again, most people don't know what coaching is. So if you explain what it is, the fact that the elements of the projection, or elements of where you take people through that orbit range, the problems you solve, how you solve them, what's included is another one, where you talk about the details, the features, the benefits. And if you know their situation, how do the features of your service map their situation and make it easier? Because if people look at coaching, they think it's probably burpees, a PDF, broccoli, chicken and rice, 6 meals a day, and being the most unpopular person in the room when they open that Tupperware. Where in reality, you could adapt to their lifestyle. You can give them options to eat on the go. You can adapt their training around what they do if they do night shifts. Again, people have no clue. You have a clue. So inform them of what it could be. Inform them when you're doing client results, you could also speak about that, and you could report in of how their journey's been. So what is coaching? Explain the details of it, what it includes, what it will do for the person is another thing, is the third thing. Again, explaining the outcome they're going to get from it and how it's going to change their lives. Then you can talk about proof it works, again, showing results. And then lastly, how to get it, what to do next. So there's 5 main things you can cover there. What is coaching? Why should they care? What will it do for them? Proof it works, what's included in the process, and what do they do next? These are elements that you can incorporate and you can talk about within content as part of this framework. And then if you can center that, it's typically Mondays, or if you think about paydays, that's when you want to really push this, because if people have the affordability around the last Friday of the month, the 20th of the month, the last day of the month, people typically take action when they can. And it's about timing, and also people take action on cycles at the beginning of things. New Year's resolutions, beginning of the month, beginning of the week. Just want to map to that psychology. So the content strategy, we should know the problems and the pain based on the solar system analogy, and like homing in on that orbit range. Knowing and being able to describe the framework which you've built off the back end of the previous task, and then doing that at the right time, doing it effectively across different points, and then showing proof it works. And that's it. You're just rotating between resonating with where they are right now, showing other people succeeding, showing the process of what the difference is between where they are right now and where they want to be, and just going over and over again in the content strategy. And this is like the bedrock of what to plan. It could be a push-pull legs. It could just be problem, framework, results, problem, framework, results. It could be simple as that. But this is where the strategy comes into play, because when it's applied to the right person and you do it consistently and you build that urgency and that tension to make people inquire, you get inquiries. Posting willy-nilly is not marketing. Replicating another coach's strategy or another coach's topic is not marketing. And this is just a fragment, by the way, of what I do. I cover all of this and more in my community, because everything in that community I've designed to help you attract more clients into your business, keep them for longer. And it's my ambition, everyone inside the community, to get to 8K per month, because Everything in there, the whole tuition, the whole framework is optimized to get 2 inquiries per week and keep them for 8 months. That's the maths to get them to 8K to 10K. So if you want to know more about that, I'm currently running a free trial. You can click it and you can redeem it in the link below and check it out there. Anyway, last thing I'm going to say about the results is you can do this in multiple different ways. You can do stories where you explain the context of what they've gone through. You can do obviously before and afters. You can do speaking case studies where you break it down. But the one thing I will say here is storytelling is key and showing the process is key now. People are not as invested in just the physical before and after pictures anymore. What they want to see is they really want to see the process of what it's gone through, what that person went through. Because if you describe what they went through, people will believe they can do it themselves. And that's the biggest bottleneck. Will it work for me or can I do that? Because if people feel it can work for them and they feel like they can achieve it because someone else has achieved it and someone else was in their situation, someone else was in a worse situation and they still did it, someone had bigger constraints than they do, someone had bigger lifestyle challenges than they do and they achieved it, it increases their believability that they can do it. And that's probably the biggest action threshold that we need to kind of overcome. Will it work for me or can I do that? If the answer is yes in their heads, they are a lot more switched on to wanting to inquire. And then it might be just a case of the right message at the right time. So having a good content plan is critical and having strategy behind this is obviously key. And that's going to encourage people to naturally gravitate towards filling out that form in your bio, which you should have. The next stage is looking at your service. And this is where we want to understand what people judge you on, because having an amazing service is crucial to this. It's really hard to market a bad service. It's really hard to market bad results. So you need to be able to help people significantly. You need to be able to demonstrate that you can create results, but also we need to be able to grow without fighting churn, because one of my other clients, we used to average, I think, between 2 and 4 inquiries a week, but for whatever reason, they weren't growing. And we obviously worked very hard on the front end, on the lead generation, on the content strategy. And we neglected some of the back end. And the coach was a fantastic coach in terms of knowledge base, but there's elements of communication and elements of what we're going to cover here that let them down. And ultimately, it was a question of retention. The average client lifetime was under 6 months, and that was a big bottleneck for us. As soon as we changed the messaging, changed the structure, worked consistently, because it's not an overnight fix. Some of this is just consistent work and kind of diagnosis, working out, and this is why I work one-to-one with people. It's just getting stuck into their business. But we stuck in, we looked at it, we probably changed communication, we changed the check-ins, we changed the structure, and we changed the content strategy to kind of attract people and precondition them. But in time, his average retention grew to 7 months. And it made a huge difference to his growth rate because it enabled him to kind of get beyond that churn. And we found that once we pushed and tipped people beyond 6 months, they're much more likely to stay longer because they understand it's an ongoing process. So this is basically understanding how your clients judge you. And the first thing to think about is your onboarding experience. It's buyer's remorse, essentially. So when people sign up, there's a 48-hour window, which you have to think about because they're tense, they're wondering, did I make the right decision? I've invested here, is this a good thing? I'm a bit nervous. So you really want to confirm their decision and be clear with communication. And to be honest, you want to under-promise and over-deliver. If it takes 3 days to create their plan, tell them it takes 5 and secretly over-deliver. And that's kind of it, setting the right expectations. And we talked about earlier with the framework, wow them, show them the horizon. Because when people sign up, clear communication, over-deliver on your promises. And the key to that is don't oversell. Don't let your mouth overwork your back, essentially. And then good projections. Again, excite them. They've got intent, they've got excitement and energy behind them. Yoke that, make them excited, show them the horizon. So even with communication, something as simple as if there's instructions in a paragraph, put it in bold. Just put the specific instruction words in bold. That massively improves the adherence because people skim read. So if people sign up, there's clear communication, you're proactive, you're friendly, you over-deliver beyond what you've promised, and then you excite them with the expectations. That's setting a great first impression. And to be honest, that does you a massive favor because when you get the right, you only get one chance for a first impression. And when you do it right, it saves you out later down the line. I'm not giving you permission to fuck up, by the way, because obviously you want to be diligent, but everything going forwards after that first impression set is they view you in a good light. And again, content can contribute to that. So what's the onboarding experience like? The next thing is the check-ins. I mean, are they repetitive and boring, essentially? And this is very personal on the coach. Obviously, I respect you've got due process. There's data that you do need. Last thing I want to come across is like a bullshit marketer which destroys your process in the sake of making you look good online. You have integrity of service. Some things need to be done to provide the best experience for the clients and they have to bend to your will with that. But there's ways of going about it. I personally can't stand looms because looms create this situation. The psychology behind it is like a teacher giving a report to a student, and it really breaks down dialogue where it feels like, I think people in general actually are just consuming less video content inside of service. Whereas if it's a quick message or like a voice note, I really respond to that. Some of the best check-ins I've had going through the process have been voice notes. I've been just talking with my coach. And the thing about voice notes is it engages me. I become part of the check-in. And when I'm responding to my coach hears the context of what I've got. Plus the tonality is really important. 38% of communication is tone, 7% is the actual words you use. So you pick up on a lot more detail. And you know, small hinges move big doors here, because forming a relationship with a stranger, it can be hard sometimes when it's remote and you've never met them. So you want to make sure the communication is like very, very clear. And little things like this where they kind of see you and judge you in the best light, or they hear the meaning behind what you're saying, because they can read the text but misread the meaning. And I've seen this so many times when we go into communication. I've seen this so many times where someone says something and the other person takes it in the completely wrong angle based on their belief systems and their preconditions. And even in the best case scenario, it's like, I've got coaches who are amazing, and some of their clients go mental, like for no reason. You're like, what the hell is that about? But they just read things in a completely different angle, completely unintended, when it's just text. So the check-ins, you know, if they feel boring, if they feel repetitive, and if I fill out the same damn form where I have to measure every inch of my body and fill out the same form about my intentions for the next week, I naturally just get switched off. And if it feels boring or repetitive, and realistically my plan doesn't change, I might start to consider, well, if it's more of the same, I'll just quit. I'll just do it myself, save myself some money, because I'm not getting much value out of this. Whereas if it's a voice note and then the check-in feels exciting and I get invested in it and I get the feedback, I'm learning about it, my coach walks me through the photos, he sends me some photos, I'm naturally kind of engaged in the service, and I form a better relationship with the coach. And then the coach feels like a coach then. It doesn't feel like a guy who's remote who kind of sends me a report every now and then. It's a guy I trust, or it's a lady I trust. I start to form a relationship with them in terms of like, they've got my back, I will start to be loyal to them. And guess what? I'm really optimized, especially in the community. Everything is trying to build relationships where other people's word of mouth will do the selling for you. And I built my entire business, my entire one-to-one business built off referrals. I think 95% of my clients come through referrals. So it's such a little angle that you can use, or such a different approach and a mentality, which is going to do you service going forwards. So again, taking little opportunities to build relationships using voice notes and making sure the check-ins don't feel boring, bland, and the people are actively consuming them, because that's a big, big thing. That's the only thing they're going to see and experience for you throughout the week. They don't have your life. That's the kind of touch point they have. So how the check-ins feel is key. And then lastly, we have communication skill. Really hard to go over now, but this is just the constant work of improving your ability to kind of say what you mean. People skills, question frameworks, two truths, giving them the option, or controlling the options to give them power and responsibility, ladder of influence. There's so many different things, but ultimately it's understanding that giving someone a plan and getting to do the plan are two very different things, because people act according to their beliefs, and if they're not acting, you have to break down the belief structure and you have to find out what's going on, and it's corrective thinking. So communication skill is vital. It's, as I said, really hard to break down on a YouTube video, but in essence, it's your ability to handle conversations, your ability to practically find out when people is something wrong, proactively solving issues before they arise, because a lot of retention is about preventing problems manifesting and building. Because when communication breaks down, we're screwed. You know, they can just walk away. Whereas we're trying to prevent that from happening in the first place. So a lot of the retention I work with my clients is spotting behavioral traits and understanding personality types, and then knowing how to communicate, what to say when someone's ghosting, what to say when someone isn't getting results and trying, what to say when people's dejected, what to say when people are not in the right headspace. Again, all of this I kind of cover in huge detail, but it's part of the communication strategy, because, you know, if you can retain people and you can turn around and ultimately do them a better service and create more impact, you're going to create more ripple effect with referrals. But also, you're just going to help more people. That's what we signed up for, right? So understanding that. So how your clients judge you, nailing your onboarding, making sure your check-ins are actually enjoyable, and then doggedly improving your communication skills is going to be key. And then lastly, we're going to get onto referrals. Again, like I said earlier, massively important. It's all about leveraging where trust is, because if you put the right message in front of the people with the highest trust, you're going to get signups. So many coaches just believe that they're going to post a message out there to randomers on the internet. Some guy from Texas is going to sign up because he really resonates with me, with my posh ass accent. Is that so? I think not. So it's just understanding who knows you, understanding, leveraging proximity, leveraging the connection network that you do have in front of you right now, because you're probably looking at your audience, but you don't consider your clients' audiences. You don't consider your clients' contact list. And that's people who will have some level of trust in you because they know the person that's got the result. And interestingly enough, real quick, because with this, two psychological principles happen. If you do a collaboration post, which is one of the strategies here, when someone sees someone they know get a result, first thing, pain increases because the comparison's stronger. They know the person that's overtaken them, psychologically, like what it feels like. This person has gained, and they instantly compare themselves with that proximity. You know, if you're in a traffic jam, only worse than that is seeing the lane to the right of you go faster and the lane to the left of you go faster. And you're just stuck in that slow lane. You think, fuck, I picked the wrong one. It's the same psychology when people compare themselves with someone they know. So when the pain increases, the willingness and urgency to take action increases as well, which again encourages people to inquire. But also, not just the pain, the believability increases because they know the person that's got the result. I know Janice. That wench has so many fucking biscuits. There is no way that she can do it and I can't do it. If she can do it, I can do that. Who's the guy who did it? See your name at the top, bang, come straight through. That's two massive psychological things that you can leverage when you do collaboration posts if you do it systematically and do it in the right way. And again, a lot of my clients don't have to bother outreaching or messaging people or chase leads, because if you leverage the psychology of this, you get good positioning, people come inbound off the back of this. So when you're looking to kind of encourage referrals and again, leverage the hard work you do and put into service, there's two things you can do. There's two approaches. There's passive and there's active. Passive is basically working your ass off with your clients to get great results and putting those results in front of the right people. So again, the longer you work with someone, the better result they're going to get with that time. Putting that and marketing that correctly through stories, through little reveals, through case studies, through carousel posts, through before and afters, that will attract more inquiries based on the level of the result you show off. You can put that on steroids when you collaborate with audiences who have some trust, or you get in front of your clients' audiences, even if it's on stories. Again, once you've got the better results and you position them in the right way, you really do all you can to motivate people to take action in the immediate future. And as I said, there's also story shares. You can do internal competitions. I mean, at the time of filming right now, Instagram just released a new feature that if you're on someone's stories, you go to the bottom right, there's a little share sign. You can just add anyone's stories to your stories. So again, you can go beyond tagging clients now. And if you put a message out there and you want your clients to kind of show it off, you can do that. If you do an internal client competition, how many steps per month, max effort, reps, maybe not PRs, because that's going to lead to loads of injuries. But again, creating some form of internal client competition to increase your visibility in front of your clients' audiences on their stories. There's passive strategies that you can use to get in front of people who are most likely to trust you or most likely to buy based on where the trust is or familiarity. So those are passive strategies you could do. And there's active strategies as well. So this is where you directly ask for referrals. So straight off, there's an offer called the Penny More offer. This is developed by Ogilvy. David Ogilvy, probably one of the most successful marketers of all time. But it's an offer where when someone signs up, you ask, is there anyone that they know want to go through this journey with them? And if they do sign up, they only pay an X amount. So Holland About do the penny or more offer to a ridiculous degree where you buy two products, you get a third free, or you get a third for a penny. Now, I'm not asking you to sell your service for a penny, but it's like, you know, if you charge 200 quid and then you say, well, it's always good to go through this process with someone. Does your partner want to go through it? If they sign up, it's 50% off for them. And immediately they'll probably split the difference. But it's just another way to get people in straight away because their intent is really high. And then there'll be a gym partner, a training partner. And if you can get their actual life partner involved, that's really helpful, because when the person gets a result and the life partner gets jealous, that's massive conflict in relationships. Whereas if you can get them both involved with a bit of a discount or an offer, then you're probably going to retain both of those for longer. So anyway, there's an idea. And then you've got progress reports. So every 6 weeks, not a bad idea to show contrast. Again, I don't love looms every week because, again, people lose value, they don't see the value in it and they kind of get burnt out by it. However, showing contrast on a 6-week frequency isn't a bad idea. And once people see how far they've come, you ask for feedback to improve service. So they see how far they've come, they respect the fact you're including them in the service. You show the horizon again on that projection. They're excited. And then once they're excited, you then ask, out of interest, who do you know that would be interested in getting this? Out of the last 10 people you spoke to on WhatsApp, who are those who are most likely to want to make a change? Because if you ask, do you know? The answer is a binary yes or no, and they're going to go, I don't know anyone. Whereas if you say, who do you know? And you tell them where to look, you do a lot of thinking for them, and people will refer you if you're top of mind. But the problem is, we're so busy, you're never top of mind because everyone thinks about themselves. So get in front and give them where to look and try and leverage when they're excited, or leverage where they see the value of the service. And that's the last thing I say with anyone. Anytime they give positive feedback, they're super excited and they're really enthused. You could ask them. The only time I wouldn't ask is like the end of a result. If you get to the end of a phase and they're really excited, like a photo shoot or like the cut, don't turn it around and then try and leverage an opportunity, because it feels a little bit like you're in it just for the money. Leave that moment for them. However, if they kind of message you with a little win, you could say, mate, awesome. I tell you what, being selfish, I would love to work with more people like you. I really enjoy working with you, and if I only can find 1,000 views, I'd love it. And out of interest, out of the last 10 people you talk to on WhatsApp, who do you know who's most likely to want to make a change? Obviously, I'm not here to kind of push anything, but I want to help. I want to just spend my time helping more people like you. Cool. Okay, could you start up a WhatsApp conversation with the three of us? You don't have to say anything, but it'd be really helpful. Cool. Can you get that done today? Mate, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. Being a bit urgent, proactive, and suggestive can help a long way. But again, it's leveraging trust, and people will actually passively refer you if you're good at what you do. But there's ways you can engineer that actively to kind of grease the wheels, and passively there's ways you can put yourself in front of the markets which are most likely to sign up, or the audiences, I say, the actual people are most likely to sign up. So it really is understanding where the trust is and putting that message front and center. But when everything boils down, these are the 5 main steps that we took to get my client to 20K per month. With that being said, there's only so much I can cover in a YouTube video. Everything I've talked about today, I cover in a lot more detail with the exact stages, steps, strategies, and what to say and how to create it. It's all in the community below. There's a free trial currently active, so you can try risk-free. If you like it, you can stay. If you don't like it, you can cancel anytime. There's 0 contracts. But everything you need to know about creating content, attracting more clients off the content, signing up those clients and keeping those clients staying on for longer, and refer their friends, it's all in there. But regardless, I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next one.